you were finally, well, on January 11th, 2010, you pleaded guilty to aggravated assault. 8 years after the situation happened, and then you were sentenced, you were sentenced to 5 years in prison, which you ended up doing like 2.5 years?
27 months.
27 months. And then you also had the DUI, the DWI, which I guess you got a year for? Is that concurrently?
No,
or
they
afterwards?
ran it, right, instead of running them together, I got out on parole, and instead of going home, they took me to Rikers Island for the DWI.
Okay, what was worse? Where did you stay in prison? Which prison did you stay at?
I stood in Mid-State Prison. First started at the Trenton, and then went on to Mid-State Prison, and from Mid-State Prison, went on to Rikers Island.
What was worse, prison or Rikers Island?
Right here in my head, my brain was worse than all of them. That's the biggest prison and the toughest prison I've ever been in. The one in this conversation that me and you are having right now, that's a prison.
You talked about, you wrote a book called Humbled, Letters from Prison, where you were writing your father, your experiences about going through. And you were talking about how, you were dealing with the various gangsters and gangs in that prison and the politics and everything else like that. But everyone kind of looked up to you and never really gave you any issues.
Yeah, not because I'm a tough guy, because I didn't go in thinking I was somebody. I was humbled. And that didn't mean walking around with my head down. I mean, I totally needed to be dependent on God. I needed a higher power. I'm claustrophobic. I wasn't worrying about 1 or 2 people in jail. I'm not a tough guy. But when you got 15,000 people and 2,500 people at Rikers that come in and out every day, do you think I'm safe without? It's the way I was from New York City. I've done a lot in Newark. My dad worked in Newark. We did a whole lot. So people wasn't coming in there, and I didn't come in there going, I'm Jayson Williams, NBA All-Star, this and that and that. Did I have fights in prison? Yeah, I had fights. Did I cause those fights? Yes, I did. It wasn't a cakewalk. It was just, there was times where, look, man, the coldest thing somebody ever told me, Vlad, I was losing my mind after the time you get cabin fever in there. There was a big dude in there, he's about 6'10". He's been in prison just about his whole life, muscles on top of muscles, probably can kick my ass in 2 seconds. And we were playing he got a bad haircut and we were playing the dozens with him, and he looked at me, he was like, but Jay, I'm always been on your side. Why are you gonna do that? And I was like, and I kept going. He said, hey man, can I see you in the bathroom? And I was like, all right, let's go in the bathroom. And we went in the bathroom, and he looked at me and he said, see all these muscles, Jay? He said, see this bald head? He said, see, I can't really fight because I'm so big, He said, but everybody think I can fight. But don't let me jump off on your big ass and find out you can't fight either. And that was the coldest shit somebody's ever told me in prison, right? That backed me up. But he could fight. I seen him fight, right? And you got to understand, you in there with good, look, man, I'm not gonna say anybody in prison is any worse than I am. You in prison and you have to do what you have to do to survive until you can get back to your family, right? Mm-hmm. Was it a cakewalk? No, it wasn't no cakewalk. Should I say I paid my debt to society and I want to be forgiven and I should be back on TV or I should be back? No. I did something that could have been avoided. And this is the hell you're gonna live through.